stay inside and, don't feel like you are responsible for changing the world, but change your world.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel you. I really do. It's really strange times that we're living in right now. It's so odd, it's so strange, so weird, so whatever it is. But yeah, I feel you on everything that you said. I've been, I'm good. I do a lot of voiceover work, so that's been really wonderful and pretty much been saving my life. And I've been doing this, which has been saving my life, because I get an opportunity to make people laugh and, hang out with me and my friends and get to know somebody that maybe they didn't know, because I know Tituss Burgess. I just assume everybody know Tituss Burgess. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody know. Not everybody know that you are forced to be reckoned with. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I'm good. My mom lives with me, and I take care of her. Right before we went live, I made her dinner. And so her dinner's sitting downstairs. So she's probably down there munching on that right now. And then when we get done taping this, I'll go and watch Family Feud and
I love it.
Is it Match Game and Match Game with her.
I love that. It's interesting. I've heard. I have a couple of friends. Do you know? You bet you do. Yvette Nicole Brown.
Yeah, I know Yvette. That's my buddy.
That's my girl too. She takes care of her dad, and to hear her talk about the honor and privilege, also the work, but like that, it's not a burden to care for the ones that cared for you, all those years or whatever. So it's lovely that you are getting to share this time. We as evidenced by the crazy way that the world seems to be appearing, time with those we care about is paramount.
It is an honor. It is an honor for me to be in a position just like Yvette is, and so many of my friends that are in the same position at this point in life, to be able to take care of my mom and have my mother, lay her head down at night and wake up in the morning with joy in her heart and in her spirit, and not be angst about, how a bill is going to get paid, or if I'm working, or how I'm doing. I try to make sure that her life is as easy breezy as possible. And I make her laugh. Now, having said that light and fluffy and wonderful, ethereal things that I've said about my mama, she's still my mama.
Okay. I got it.
And she a Black mama. So there you have that. She's a mama, and she a Black mama, and she be doing everything. So
where are you from, baby?
I'm from St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, very good. How is that?
Yeah, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I came to New York from DC because I went to Howard University there. I know you hardly know anything about me, but we know each other, from the Broadway.
I know that we kikied, and all of a sudden I was like, where did this doll go?
I know you said that the last time I saw you. You were like, where is she? Like,
where did she
go? And folks was like, I don't know where she went. I think she's in LA. I don't know.
But
well, let me enlighten you.
Like you have gone out and created a whole new life and identity for yourself, and garnering respect from the energy industry. And I just think it's a lovely energy to watch. I'm just
thank you, Tituss. I appreciate. Wow. I appreciate that. Thank you. This top is giving me the rah-rahs, honey. Let me move her around. She's cute, but she's troublesome. She's cute, but she's troublesome. I know you're from Athens, Georgia. And when I was a student at Howard University, I stayed at this woman's house who was from Athens, Georgia. I had never heard of Athens, Georgia before I met her. And I'm pretty sure it's a small town. Her name was Mazeda Marshall.
No idea.
No, but she had a son named Tony Marshall. But I stayed at her house. She had like a boarding house, and I stayed there instead of staying in a dorm when I was in college at Howard. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm down.
Huh?
Well, if you're from Georgia and you're listening, we need to flip the Senate seat. I forget the guy who is running, but if we can flip that Senate seat, then we will have the Senate majority, even if we don't unseat Mitch McConnell. So
we need to
donate.
look up his name. Have Jared look up his name real quick and give it to you.
Let me find this man's name because I just sent this to my cousins.
Cool. And while you're talking about that, I'm gonna think about some other things to ask you. So we were talking about how we met each other on the Broadway where we kikied and carried on. What was it like the very first time you stepped into a Broadway theater?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What did that feel like for you? Because, you know, the first time I became aware of you is when you were doing that revival of Guys and Dolls.
Oh, wow. That was
a long time ago.
2009. Real quick, his name is John Ossoff or Ossoff. He's a Democrat. Ossoff. He wins the Georgia Senate race, then Mitch McConnell's Senate majority is doomed, and you can.
All right. So listen to Tituss Burgess. He's saying we need to flip the seat in Georgia, y'all. For those people that are from Georgia that are listening in real time or that catch the replay of this, go and vote. Make sure you vote. I've been getting all kinds of emails about voting by mail. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, but I'm going to have to vote by mail because I can't, go out and stand with a bunch of people and infect my mother. So there's that.
That is completely sound advice. The Postal Service is telling Americans to give every ballot 14 days round trip to make sure that it is there in time.
So like a month.
Count it. So
basically a month.
Don't think of the election as November 3rd. You guys need to think of the election day, if you're doing vote by mail, as October 20th. And that will guarantee, that gives you the wiggle room and guarantees that there's no fuckery. I think I might brave it, put on some gloves, and march my ass down there.
Look, I don't know.
No.
But
very good. Guys and Dolls.
Guys and Dolls. First time. Was that the first time you stepped into a Broadway theater or no?
No. My original my Broadway debut was a show called Good Vibrations. That was in 2000.
I remember that.
5, I believe.
I remember that. Yeah.
I think we may even, or maybe not anymore, but for a while we held the title for We were the longest running show that stayed in previews longer than any other show. I think we stayed in previews for 4 months.
Ooh, why would y'all show in previews for so long? I can't stand you. Why?
I have since made peace with it and reconciled with producers and directors alike. So I won't bring attention to the reasons that I think we were in previews that long. I will say I learned a great deal from that show, both in terms of being on stage and you being your last line of defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I have carried that sort of learning curve, that lesson with me into filming and protecting what you can. Of course, with filming, you can't control the edit if you're not the producer or the director or the writer.
Right.
So do what you can to preserve the type of performance that you wish to give. With theater, you kind of, if you are lucky enough to work with people with vision, there's a sort of built-in protective layer, but there are times where you have to be responsible for your own performance.
Yeah.
And you have to do what you got to do to make sure that you don't look crazy. So that's what I'll say.
Whew. Okay. I'm gonna stop talking about Broadway because see, you got shenanigans.
Was 2009.
You got shenanigans. But I remember you doing Guys and Dolls and screaming, "Sit down, you rocking the boat." And baby, you was rocking the boat on the Radio City Music Hall stages, but you was doing. I was like,
no, I wasn't rocking the boat.
You were climbing over people or chairs or something. I was like, you
didn't work.
You don't slip and bust your booty.
I'll tell you the story. So Liza Minnelli was backstage. She went on just some numbers before us, and she was getting out of mic. And you had to share mic packs, but you stayed mic'd up. So,
right.
So I was getting Liza's mic pack.
Mm-hmm.
Getting ready to be time. The entire cast is in place, with the exception of me. And I was in a fat suit. I lost a lot of weight at the time. And I was in a fat suit, but I remember nightly on Broadway that there was like this clicking sound that I would hear when I knew that the mic pack was secure. Didn't hear no clicking sound. And I looked at the sound technician and I was like, are you certain that this is, whatever? Meanwhile, Liza is telling me some story that to this day I do not remember. And
Liza got stories. We can have a whole conversation about Liza.
Come on. Well, that's a whole.
I'm just saying because she used to, when I was in the life, she was there almost every day.
Are you serious?
Yes, she was. It got to the point where I would come to not to jump into your story, but to jump into your story. It got to the point where I would come to the theater and be like, oh my God, Liza Minnelli is here. Cause I'm like her biggest fan ever to, hey, Liza, how you doing, girl? It got to be like that.
No.
Bananas.
That's amazing.
Look, it was bananas. And then I'm going to tell you this story real quick. So then this other thing was, she came by the theater one night, and it was the night that I was going to the wedding of Matthew Broderick and Sarah Jessica Parker. I was going to their wedding that night, and she came by the theater, and Cy Coleman brought her out on stage, and she said, I always made a promise that I would never sing any of my mother's songs live until now. And she sang You Made Me Love You live while Cy Coleman was playing for her. I was late to the wedding watching that. I was like,
oh my God.
Bananas. And I'm sure you got a plethora of stories. But anyway, you, Liza, and the mic pack, go.
Well, I don't know what story she was telling me, but she was telling me a story and she felt very passionate about it. And so I'm politely doing my best not to disrespect her. And I'm flummoxed as to why she's chosen me to be the recipient of her attention at the time. But I was thrilled. I had met her years earlier through a guy named Donnie Kerr for this thing.
I know Donnie.
You know Donnie?
Mm-hmm.
Donnie does Rockers on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
So Liza was there.
Original cast member of Tommy.
Tommy, yes, of course. I sang River Deep Mountain High, whatever. So she said
of course
Donnie,
you did.
Donnie, give Titus my number. I want him to have my number. So Donnie gives me her number, and for a short period of time, Liza and I would just text each other, like, whatever. So I don't know if she wanted to talk to me about, I don't know what she wanted to talk to me about at the Tonys. However, I had to cut her story off, and so that I could engage with the sound person or whoever was putting my mic pack on. And I was like, sir, it didn't click, or you started this in. And of course, people are sometimes very proud and have, take even the smallest inquiry the wrong way. And this man insisted that you know, he's been union for years and worked at Radio Hall for years. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
whatever.
yeah. So we get out there, and I heard this static, and I was like, "Oh my god, motherfucker!" My mic is not all the way plugged in, and sure enough, you can see on the
Yep.
clip that went around on YouTube that it wasn't working, and they bring me a
They bring you a
handheld.
handheld.
There's all this hat choreography that we were supposed to do that I couldn't do, so I just throw the hat off stage, and that was my Radio City Music Hall debut. And you know, it's interesting. It was sort of indicative of how I felt about the run of Guys and Dolls. So, like, you know,
I love that. And then you were weren't you Sebastian the Crab in Little Mermaid too?
yes, I was the original Sebastian the Crab in Mermaid, and what else did I do? I did another Broadway show.
So many other ones. But let's move on to Central Park. So how are you adjusting from doing the live theater 8 shows a week to doing animation at home with a microphone that they send you?
It's literally at home. You're absolutely right. It's literally, you know. Well, I mean, it's interesting. Animation for me has always been quarantine because, like, you are rarely, if ever, with castmates, and it's usually someone calling in to give you instruction and direction and notes and such like that. So that was not the hardest transition. You know, I do find it easier, obviously, to work with other humans. Obviously, acting as reacting and responding and listening, and
Of course.
working with you know, you're doing your lines, giving 4 and 5 different interpretations because animation, I always say, is the editor's sport. You know, however they decide to spin.
Make you sound, yeah.
So, you know, not that it's easy, but like I have very little involvement with it other than do what they say and offer up some options. So.
Okay. Well, we got some questions for you. You know, when we do YouTube, there's a chat room.
Oh,
so,
no.
yes, Michael B is here. Jared is spying on me. Jared is spying on me, making sure you good. And Brandon Heaton is here. And somebody else was up in here. Who was it? Let me see. There was someone else whose name I saw. But anyway, Michael wants to know, he says, how did you like filming the Noah's Ark reboot?
Oh my God. Noah's Ark raised me. It was the first example I had of what it could possibly look like, albeit scripted, albeit storylines that were dreamed up, that were borrowed from, you know, real experiences and such. But Patrick Ian Polk DM'd me on Instagram, and I forget, maybe I think I saw an advertisement that there was going to be a reunion. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited about this, because I remember watching it as a very, 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 very young man. And he goes, oh, I'm so glad you're excited because I've written a role for you. And I was like, and then he told me what it was, and I was so here for it. And I asked him, could I thank Alex inside a scene? And I said, but this is honestly my way of trying to express genuinely how much you guys have given me, all of them. And Patrick Ian Polk is a pioneer. He's a legend. And I know that my community, but more specifically me, I have so much to thank him for, because, you know, many of those scenarios and situations gave me points of references and parameters for what it would look like to be an out gay Black man. So I had a wonderful time.
I love that. William Jacquin was the other person that's in the chat room talking to you. And then I specifically wanted to know, what are your thoughts before we end up? Because I've had you like way longer than I had anticipated, but we were having fun. It's okay. So I want to talk to you about Black Theater United and what your thoughts are about that. And what kind of changes do you think it's really going to make when it comes to the way we are treated in the theatrical community? Because I'm sure you can attest, as can I, that a lot of times with us, we are given the 11 o'clock number 10 minutes before the end of the show and not given much context or depth as a character before that.
Very good. 2020 has been, and I hope people receive this the way I mean it, largely a gift. It has forced our backs against the wall to reconcile and give light and put several injustices on notice, and has forced people to reckon with themselves. I know it did that for me. That parlayed into a much larger conversation where the fatigue of persistent and consistent injustice as it relates to people of color morphed into a nationwide, worldwide exhaustion. And it was our opportunity and obligation to speak up and invite those in power to have conversations about real change and recognize our own power by delaying involvement without written what's the word?
I don't know.
Not but written sort of allegiances to correct the sins of the past and sort of speak to the trajectory of the future. Follow me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, I think efforts like Black Theater United and all of the other coalitions, and because there are many, have the interest of people of color, the best interest of people of color at heart. But one of the things that has to happen is I often hear this fatigue of like, oh, I don't want to teach you about which organization to donate to. We've lived it. Or I don't want to, it's not my job to, catch you up on history, Google it, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things where we finally go, no, you go do it. Well, that's not how it works when you're a victim. Mm-hmm. When you are a victim, it is up to you to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. No one is going to help you. When you are the victim, when you are the person who has been receiving abuse, it is solely up to you, unfortunately, mm-hmm. to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and show people how to treat you. Because if you don't show people how to treat you, they will treat mm-hmm. you way. That's mm-hmm. it. We have to create spaces where white people, white producers, and people who generally dismiss people of color know how to find us, know how to find young stage managers, know how to find young would-be producers, opening up the producerial pool, who know how to find young would-be Black directors, scenic designers, costume designers, wig designers, not just actors, not just the people on stage, lighting designers, the whole nine. So I don't know what this is going to look like when it's time for us to come back, but I know that there have to be websites and spaces designed by these coalitions and these institutions that have in place places for these white people to find us, so that they have no excuse to say, well,
we can't find
them. Exactly. That is my answer.
They're like, oh, we can't find them. Oh, we don't know how to find that person.
On the color interview, no one applied. Well,
right.
Why? Because we don't even know about the goddamn jobs. But you know what I'm saying?
That part.
But if there is a space, a place that lives on the internet where all you got to do is just type in and their resume is there, not entirely unlike a LinkedIn for people of color who wish to be industry professionals, and there is no excuse for us to, at the very least, not have been interviewed, not to have been found, and potentially not to have gotten the job.
And some of these parts, oh boy, I got an echo going on. Hold on, let me fix that.
Not out here, PS, so I don't know how that's working.
Okay, cool. All right, so what I was going to say that sometimes the roles there are roles that come up that don't necessarily have to be a white person or a Black person. Like there could be non-traditional casting, and they were on that tip for a minute. And now that's kind of like, it was hot, and now they kind of just forgot that exists. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for making a comment on that. I appreciate you addressing that, because I think it's important that people like yourself speak up and speak out on that, on the rights of certain groups of people like LGBTQ, Black people in theater, Black people in Hollywood, because when you speak up and you speak out, then people realize that there is a problem and that the problem has existed for quite some time. It didn't just happen because we in quarantine.
Yes. I want to speak to that, to what you just mentioned about non-traditional casting and all that good stuff. So you guys, we cannot make these white people write stories for us.
No.
We cannot make... We
have to write our own stories.
Right. Well, so when there's a breakdown, a casting break, well, first of all, there's maybe one or two Black casting directors or Black-owned casting companies that I can think of off the top of my head. But so there's that, which changes how we are pitched. But fuck how we are pitched. What has to happen is a fundamental change in the infrastructure of producing. So yes, it takes us writing more stories for and about ourselves, and it takes more of us with means to consider moving into production and putting money into our own stories. But then we also have to, you got to have a theater. Yeah. Because they're gatekeepers. So just because you got the money and the play and the stars lined up, don't mean you about to get a theater on Broadway, because about 4 families run that. So there's so much more than just the representation that we are used to seeing. This thing is so much larger and goes so much deeper. The systemic racism goes so much deeper than we realize. So it's going to take us pooling our resources, maybe begging the 6 millionaires, the 6 billionaires rather, that we know of on Earth, begging them to buy up some property. And we have to have our own theaters, our own places where we can put these productions and petition to get these houses credited as Broadway houses, so that the pool opens up, right? Yeah. So it's not just singularly about the non-traditional casting and the placation that goes into pretending that a production is diverse. And diversity doesn't just exist on the stage; it exists behind the stage too. And the reason
it exists in life.
Exactly.
It exists in life, not just on a stage, not just on a set, not just in a studio, but in life.
Exactly.
Right. So to get to a lighter note before I let you go, boo boo, what makes you laugh and what are you streaming right now?
Oh, jeez.
I know you streaming something that makes you tee hee hee. Like I know for me, Harlem Nights does it for me every time.
Got my mouth all ready for some orange juice. Ain't nothing swallow
left in the container. Oh, here's our toe. You want to shoot my pinky toe? Go ahead, shoot my pinky toe.
Oh, you
like to hit girls. Why are we quoting the whole movie?
It's so funny. What did I just watch that I just kikied? Oh goodness. Let's see here. I mean, I watched all things Netflix. We've been watching lots of old movies that are not that great. We watched better let me maybe not do that.
I hate you. Oh my God, I hate you.
It's for you. I just watched. I didn't kiki, but it was super informative and beautiful. I watched the Walter Mercado.
Mucho amor.
Mucho amor.
Yeah, that was fantabulous. It did make me kiki though, because he was fantabulous.
The arrangements, I just had some arrangements, by the way. But his little arrangements, I was like, oh, I'm so here for that. I watched is it Dead to Me with Christina Applegate?
Yeah, Dead to Me. Mm-hmm. That's Christina Applegate. Mm-hmm.
I watched Spike Lee's latest. Wasn't funny, but I watched his latest.
The Five Bloods.
The Five Bloods. That was intense, and he always delivers. Central Park, actually, and I don't make a habit of watching myself, truly. But I'm serious. But it's funny. So if you're looking for something lighthearted, and then I just kind of don't, and it's not because I don't want to see myself. I guess if I'm to be honest, I spend enough time trying to convince myself not to pick myself apart. Because the world is already doing it for me. And when I watch myself, the entire time I'm there sort of thinking about what I would have done differently, how I look, and I'm in heavy therapy about all of those things. So I thought, let me not give energy to that. So that has manifested itself into not watching, but animation is different because I don't have to see myself, just to hear myself. So it has filled me with great joy, and I think it's funny, and the music is great. So if you're looking for something, a little escape, consider watching that.
Central Park, y'all, on Apple TV Plus with my boy Tituss, Leslie Odom Jr. is produced by Josh Gad, yeah?
Yes, that's correct. And Lauren Bouchard.
Yes. So check that out. Baby, I had you for like 20 minutes more than I had intended to, but we were having such a great conversation. I didn't want to cut you off because I felt like what you were saying is important and it's my show, so I can do what I want to do.
That's what I'm saying. Come on. I fucking love it.
You refuse to watch yourself, especially with other people.
Well, I will not watch myself with other people. I watched when we were watching Dolomite at the Toronto International Festival. I started it, got up, left, came back for the talk back out of there.
Stop.
Couldn't
do it. I feel you. It's hard to watch yourself. It is. But Tituss Burgess, thank you. When I called, you came. And I appreciate you for that because not everybody's able and not everybody won't be bothered. But I appreciate you for being bothered. I really do.
I adore you and I believe in what you're doing. And, we're all in this together. If you didn't have a show, whoever follows you, who may not know me, now maybe they watch. And if I'm doing something else and I need to promote it, it'll be your followers that I turn to. So it's cyclical. So
thank you. Of course. I got you. I got you. Whatever you're doing, I got you. Just let me know.
Right.
Tag a sister and let me know. All right, baby. Have a good rest of your Sunday. And I'm going to get on with the rest of this show real quick.
Your mom. Yes. What did you cook?
What did I cook? Oh, I'll tell you what I cooked real quick. I made some risotto with scallops and poblano peppers and corn.
Find out. That sounds delicious.
It was really good. I ate mine before I came up here. It was yumski.
Okay, well, we're going to be making that. Yes.
I'll teach you how to make it. Maybe we'll do a video and I'll teach you how to make it.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'll totally do it. That sounds great.
I'll totally teach you how to do that. I'll totally teach you how to do that.
I mean,
we'll make time. We'll FaceTime and I'll teach you how to make it.
Done and
done and done. All right, baby. Bye.
All right, bye.
You guys, that was Tituss Burgess. He's on Central Park's Apple TV Plus. Central Park, which is on Apple TV Plus. And thank you guys for popping in the chat room and commenting and saying so many wonderful things. I'm going to hit some of these questions right now. Jared's talking about, does it ship? Does this risotto ship? No, boo-boo, but I will be out on the line one day and I will teach you to make it. So let me address some of these questions that Michael B had. Michael B, when we say the 11 o'clock number, it's a theater term. That basically means when you go to see a musical theater production where they're singing, 10 minutes before the show is over, regardless of the time, it's always this, bring it home, come to Jesus moment, 10 minutes before the show is over. And in the theater, we call it the 10 o'clock number, the 11 o'clock number, because usually a show is over with at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. And it's like that last number that you hear, that last musical number that you hear before the show ends. And it's usually sung by either a Black man or a Black woman. So it's just a theater term. And then in terms of, you said, does it have to be Broadway? What about LA or Chicago? When we talk about theater, we're talking about all kinds of theater, not specific to Broadway. We're just talking about Broadway because those are the lanes that he and I have navigated in. I've navigated in the lanes in LA, and I'm sure at some point, both of us have navigated in a lane in Chicago with out-of-town tryouts with shows that were slated either to come to Broadway or to come to LA. So that's the answers to those questions, Michael B. I thank you and Brandon for always being here. I love y'all. Y'all make me so happy. And I thank William Jacquin. He wanted me to tell Tituss thanks for doing this and that it was great watching and that he missed the first part. Yeah, I missed the first part too, because guess what I did? I forgot to click record at the very beginning. So we got Tituss in the middle of a sentence. I'll go and I'll fix it. But like I said, this is my first time doing this by myself live. So there's bound to be some mistakes. So there's that. But I want to get to these other things real quick. I don't want to keep y'all here all day. I want to get to these three movies that I saw. One was called The Greyhound. That also is on Apple TV Plus, and it's directed by Aaron Schneider, and it stars Tom Hanks. It's based on the 1955 novel The Good Shepherd by C.S. Forrest. And C.S. Forrest was known for writing tales of naval warfare, i.e. Horatio Hornblower. If you don't know who that is, look it up. It's a very, very famous name and book series. But The Greyhound deals with the World War II history with this ship called the Greyhound with the Germans. And it specifically deals with this battle in the Atlantic Ocean that they had. And during that time, over 3,500 ships were sunk during that Atlantic Ocean battle with the Greyhound, and over 72,200 lives were lost. This is what I think about The Greyhound. I'm not a big war movie person. I don't really like war movies. They're very long and laborious to me. I watched The Greyhound because I love Tom Hanks. I watched The Greyhound because I love Apple TV. Having said that, Tom Hanks's performance is very controlled and very nuanced. It's always a pleasure to see him. There's a moment where they're dumping bodies in the ocean and giving them military honors, people that have died on board, as a casualty of war. It always happens. And it eerily reminded me of the beginning of COVID in New York City when they were putting bodies in those freezer trucks. Those kind of films, we're living a nightmare right now, and I just have a hard time watching them. Doesn't mean it's not good. Doesn't mean that people that don't like Tom Hanks or war films are not going to enjoy it. They will, but for me, it was a little laborious. I feel like this film probably missed an opportunity to have a big theatrical run, because the film, based on how it is shot, lends itself more to like a big theater with a big theatrical run. It's really hot on action, really hot on tension, but very, very little dialogue. So that's The Greyhound, that is now streaming on Apple TV Plus. I saw this other movie, y'all, called the Amulet. I'm probably mispronouncing it. It's bananas and crazy, but that was the craziest demented horror thriller movie I'd seen in quite some time. It ranks right up there with like Rosemary's Baby and The Devil's Advocate. It deals with this ex-soldier who has been hired to move into this decrepit house and help this young woman take care of her ailing mother. Her ailing mother is a handful, is all I'll say without ruining it for you. But it's directed by this woman named Romola Garai, who's wonderful in how she crafted the story together. The way she shot the film is really beautiful. There's these really nice, long, gorgeous panoramic scenes of the forest, and then once you get into the house, the hues are really brown and kind of eerie and crazy looking. And it was a crazy film, but it was one of those, it was like watching a car crash. Like I looked at it and I couldn't turn away. It was bananas, but it is worth it to see. If you're not a big horror film person, which I'm not, but I love thrillers, the only reason you need to see this film, other than the filmmaking of Romola Garai, is to see the performance of Imelda Staunton. Imelda Staunton, you guys would know from the Harry Potter franchise, and she's usually in other films playing these crazy, quirky, funny people. But she is not crazy. She crazy, but she not quirky and funny in Amulet. She is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. She's giving me Ruth Gordon from Rosemary's Baby or Al Pacino from The Devil's Advocate. She's freaking fantabulous. So check that out. Is streaming right now, video on demand. You can check that out. Now, there's a film that I saw called The Fight. It deals with the ACLU. The ACLU is the American Civil Liberties Union, and it's directed by the same people that directed the Wiener documentary, Elyse Steinberg, Josh Kreigman, and Eli B. Despres. And they center around 4 lawyers. Those lawyers are Lee Gerlant, Dale Ho, Joshua Black, and Chase Strangio. And it's dealing with the ACLU and their fight against justice, because they basically take up with people who have had their civil liberties taken away, and they're trying to get their rights reinstated for one reason or another. They have 147 lawsuits against the Trump administration, with the first one being filed 7 days after his inauguration. It starts streaming this week on July 31st. This film is dealing with everything from gays in the military to DACA to transgender rights. So what I'm going to do right now, you guys, is I have a 5-minute brief interview that I did with them. To see the full interview, it'll air on my YouTube channel at 6:00. But right now, I'm going to play you this interview with Josh, Eli, and Elyse from The Fight.
Hello, Elyse, Josh, and Eli. How y'all doing today?
We're good. Hi, Carla.
Hi. So I really love this documentary. I love documentaries. They're my jam. But what I really want to know from you guys is, I don't know about you, but I knew the American Civil Liberties Union because I had heard about them over the course of the centuries. Yeah, over the course of the centuries, or decades rather, in regards to the civil rights movement. But I wasn't quite clear on what they did. So for each one of you, I was wondering how you became aware of the ACLU and why you guys decided to do The Fight.
Well, thanks so much for your enthusiasm about the film and talking with you. So my mother was a litigator who fought for immigrant rights. So I grew up with an understanding of a sense of what it meant to be a lawyer fighting for civil liberties. So I had that personal connection to lawyers fighting these battles. But the impetus for the story was that I was actually on the steps of the Brooklyn courthouse, joining the protesters 7 days, after Trump enacted his Muslim ban, and all those protesters gathered at the steps of the Brooklyn courthouse. I was with them, and I was just steps away from Lee when he emerged, having beaten back the Trump's initiative. And I saw the expression on Lee's face, just this joy and exhilaration. And I felt like we were in this epic moment of history that that these lawyers at the ACLU were going to be faced with the most important, civil rights battle of my lifetime. And I felt like that was something that we needed to document.
What actually happened after that is Elyse the next day came barreling into our office. She practically knocked down the door and just took a beeline straight for our whiteboard where we have ideas for future projects. And she grabbed the eraser and erased all of them and wrote "The Fight" in big letters and said, this is it. We have to get inside the ACLU. We have to tell this story over the next few years. And it was one of those moments, Elyse and I, immediately thought, yeah, that's right. This is what we have to do. And it was just, in that moment after Trump had just become president, I think that we sort of recognized that this was an incredibly important place to be.
I'm really glad that you guys showed the humanity and the vulnerable side of all of these lawyers, because I don't know about y'all, but I know for me personally, whenever I think of a lawyer, I think of them being like as a shark, of them being totally detached from their emotions. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think it's being totally detached from their emotions and them just like going in there and doing their job and getting their briefs together. And the fact that you guys showed all four of these lawyers in a very vulnerable state, well, in the course of them fighting for these different rights for all these different groups of people, was really quite lovely and enjoyable to watch. So thank you so very much for that. I really appreciated that. How did you guys get tied up with Kerry Washington for this? I know it premiered at Sundance, and what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, we met Kerry. It's just been an incredible partnership. She's been an incredible producer. You just can't ask for someone better to come on board with your project. And one of the great things was that she also, just as I was on the steps of the Brooklyn courthouse watching Lee as he emerged and had that moment that we have to get there, she was watching it as well on her TV and called her agent and said, I got to get in with the ACLU. I got to get in. I got to find the documentary. Is there a documentary crew that's in there? And they're like, funny, you should ask. There are these guys. They directed Wiener. Would you like to be introduced to them? And we were introduced, and that was what was so special. We had a shared vision for the film. It wasn't something where we said, oh, who can we get on board to help us with our film? She was a partner from the very beginning for the past, almost 4 years now. And at every stage, they would just call her and her producing partner, Pilar. They would call and say, what can we do? How can we help? What can we do? How can we help? And just having that and having her there to help producing creatively at all stages was just phenomenal. She's a phenomenal, I just feel in awe of her. And I'm so glad that we got to have her on this film with us.
So you guys, again, the extension of that interview is on my YouTube channel, and it will go live at 6 o'clock. That is it. I have taken way too much of your time on this Sunday. That's it for my first live one that I did by myself. Yay! If this is your first time joining me, please click below to the subscribe button so that you can get notifications. I'll be trying to go live every week unless otherwise notified. So again, the films that you should check out are, of course, Tituss on Apple TV Plus's Central Park, The Greyhound on Apple TV as well, Amulet, and The Fight. Until the next time, you guys, let me give a big thumbs up and thank you to Jared for arranging the interview with Tituss, for Michael B. and Brandon for always joining me. And let me give a big rest in peace to Regis Philbin, loved him so much, and Olivia de Havilland, fabulous actress who lost her life today. She was 104 years old. Regis Philbin was 88. So again, you guys, catch me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at The Curvy Critic. Join me here on Sundays at 5 o'clock. I got some shows for you, and I got a really wonderful show for you next week, but I'm going to keep you in suspense, and you'll have to find out throughout the week what it is. But until then, love, peace, and hair grease. Until the next time. I love y'all. Bye.